Welcome back. Thank you for staying with the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Michael Danny Marshall is revered in creative circles. He passed away on Thursday. The St. Lucia Carnival Bands Association is extending its condolences to the family and friends of the craftsman. Representative Barry George says the fraternity will honor the memory of the last dragon during the month of December. Jacques Wooding reports.
The last dragon has passed. Longtime member of the Carnival fraternity, Michael Danny Marshall, affectionately known as the Last Dragon amongst his peers, may not be a household name, but he should be. He will forever be remembered for his immense skill and contributions to the development of St. Lucia's Carnival. Longtime friend and colleague of the deceased, Barry George, takes us through the years of dedication given to St. Lucia's Carnival by the Last Dragon.
We are saddened to have our loss of a legendary craftsman, costume builder in the name of Michael Danny Marshall, who have been an iconic builder for over 60 plus years in St. Lucia's Carnival. On behalf of the Carnival Bands Association and the Carnival fraternity, we would like to express condolences to his family. And of course, the Carnival Bands Association, which members will give some support, to him in terms of his sign-off, as we will honor Mr. Marshall as a great person who have contributed tremendously in the Carnival landscape. I've known him for almost 20 years, from the time of New Dimension into Secra and other Carnival bands, and most recently working with me, Just as Kids, for 14 years, creating, being our structural designer and for the kings and queen and the individual costume. Mr. Marshall, as we know, is someone who have been in Carnival for, like I said, for the longest while. He started from time of Diamond Steel into Turk's Carnival Band to the Spectrum Carnival Band, working all his Carnival bands, and also at one point in time he had his Carnival Band with Mr. Junior Branford, which was called Mass Creation. Of course, from there he moved into other bands like Secra, Excess Energy. Mr. Marshall literally worked with almost all of the Carnival bands and producing hundreds of kings and queens of costumes over his time period. And most of his kings and queen costumes have either won king or queen of the band or actually placed. His skills, of course, is unique to the area of costume building. I would say I was happy that I know him personally, and I've had the privilege, of course, this year to play my tribute to him earlier for the king and queen costumes of the band this year, where I played tribute to him in the film called The Last Dragon, which is part of the butterfly effect of the Fusion Mask portrayal of 2019, which actually honored Mr. Marshall as a butterfly effect, as basically I learned from him, and that was the effect. And the many young people who worked in the Justice Kids Mask Camp, who actually saw a close hand of how his approach and his creative process worked underneath him and learned something from him.
George says the Carnival Bands Association will assist the family of Marshall in efforts to celebrate his life and encourages recognition of his work within the Carnival fraternity. May he rest in peace. For Hot 7 News, I am Jacques Wooding.
The potential for growth in the yachting industry is vast and fairly unexplored, so says maritime consultant Cuthbert Didier. He says St. Lucia is in a prime position to capitalize and make waves in this lucrative industry once the cards are played right. Solange Alfred tells us more.
An ocean of opportunity awaits for increased profitability in the yachting sector on island. Maritime consultant Cuthbert Didier says proper investment by relevant agencies can lend itself to St. Lucia becoming the industry leaders where yachting is concerned.
The agencies involved in regulating the maritime industry do not or have not seen yachting as a potential viable product. Yes, we host the Ark, and yes, we have yacht arrivals, but we have not invested and given the concessions that we give to the hotel sector. We need to be able to harness the talents of a lot of young people who are gifted in sailing, men and women. We need to focus on building marina facilities in the south of the island. And also we need to promote it as a viable option and correct. And we have not done that fully.
DDA calls for a more lively maritime management on island. He uses the example of jet ski regulation to drive home the point of proper governance of maritime affairs.
The jet skis are one issue. I have been working with SLASPA on presenting a draft jet ski policy, which will be rolled out in the near future. However, we also need to address carrying capacity on our beaches. St. Lucians are quick to say the beaches are ours, but how we treat the beaches, we need to treat the beaches as parks, and we need to respect that. If we go to the beach and we go with our family, the garbage, the dumping of bottles, the changing of car oils on the beach, that cannot go on. We need to stop this, and we need to manage that resource. The bays from Ange Coshore going right down to Soufriere during the cruise ship area time is a madness. The overcrowding on the beaches, the overuse of the resources. SMMA is a marine management area, and that's not being respected by the Dayboat charters. We have to put in a coastal management plan for the west coast of this country to remain a competitive tourism destination. And we need to do this for ourselves. We need to manage the resource, and hopefully when persons come, the tourists, whether cruise ship or staying in boutique hotels or all-inclusive, they will see the efforts and they will respect and adhere and also enjoy the product we have.
DDA says the island's heavy reliance on its natural resources to drive tourism, specifically its beaches, demands policy aimed at proper management of maritime matters. Reporting for Hot 7 News, I am Soulaj Alfred.
A movement is underway as some parents deviate from the traditional education system. Students have been pulled from both public and private schools and instead registered with the island's first unschooling institution, Education Station Incorporated. Parent and chairperson of the institution, Sylvester Cozell, says that the education sector is in need of serious attention and reform. And he says parents need to be aware of alternative means of educating their children.
The education sector in St. Lucia has seen an increase in homeschooling and unschooling practices. Chairman of the Education Station Incorporated, Sylvester Cozell, says that these practices are a far cry from the one-size-fits-all formula of learning. Instead of being led in a traditional chalk and talk classroom, students are instead liberated from homework and exam systems for what Cozell describes as an opportunity to unlock their fullest potential.
We were convinced that if we kept our children within the existing system, that they would turn out to be not all that they can be. Not that they'll be bad, but they wouldn't be all that they can be. They wouldn't be able to achieve their maximum.
Cozell says the group of like-minded parents who have spearheaded the Education Station Incorporated all explored ways of reforming the existing public education system with little success. So he says the goal is now to roll out a model for education that can be duplicated.
That decision was prompted by a general dissatisfaction with how my children were growing, developing, and becoming citizens. And it was not just my view, it was the view of several other parents who, when I shared my concern, shared similar views, and we decided that we wanted to do something for our children that was different to what was presented in the public and private school system. It had a lot to do with that the school system was extremely authoritarian. It didn't allow children to think freely, that they were categorized very early, that they were measured by being able to pass certain exams. The exams which, to our minds, didn't truly measure their actual abilities.
He hopes that this pilot institution will awaken relevant authorities to the changes to be made to the education sector in St. Lucia and the wider Caribbean, and welcomes parents and guardians to register their children with the Education Station Incorporated at the Rodney Heights office or via their online platform. For Hot 7 News, I am Jacqueline.
This is the Hot 7 TV Nightly News. Stay with us. There's more news coming up after the break.